Hey, welcome back to Motorhead Garage. Well, we're working on a big rig right now. What we're running into is the driver has found he's having a little bit of problem with the anti-lock. He's getting some codes there. And we've traced this problem right down here to this front hub.
Now you get a little bit of wheel bearing play, and when the hub moves, you change the spacing between the ABS sensor and the effect switch. So what happens is it sets a code. Good preventative maintenance anyway. Got in and out of wheel bearings on a big spindle. Different than a car, most of these have gear oil in them. We'll pull this hub off, and that's why we have a drain pan.
Get started, buddy.
Ready? Yep. Nice.
All right, well, now we got the hub off. Now we're getting to the busy part. I'm going to pull this oil seal out, take a quick look at that. We'll replace this. You don't want to reuse these things. And we'll pull out the bearing. And now who I have here is Roberto Carriedo from NTN-Bower. And these are the bearing manufacturers, and they make all these. And Roberto, taking a look at this bearing, what do you see on here?
What you want to observe is the gouges that are, or the score marks that are on the rollers themselves. You can actually feel that with your fingernail. What that's going to tell us is that hard particles got trapped inside and now are gouging the rollers, which is going to lead to premature failure.
Yeah, you can see some gouges, some lines in there as well. So what happens, I guess, is when these bearings wear out, it causes excess play in the wheel. When that happens, you can see there's a tone ring around here. That has got a certain space between that and a sensor. This is for your anti-lock brake system. And what happens is that spacer, or if that space changes too much, then you start to get a fault code. And that's what's happened. These bearings are worn, aren't they?
Absolutely.
So we got to replace this, knock out the erase, put in new bearings, and then we can get this thing going. Okay, now we got our hub all cleaned up, ready to go. Now, what we've done is we've pressed out the old bearing race and put in new races. Now, they'll come with your bearings, so don't ever run a new bearing with the old race. That can cause you some problems. Now, Roberto, what's different about these bearings than some of the others that you can install?
Well, there's a lot of sources that are overseas that are made as a through-hardened steel, which is less resistant to impact or shock loading. With the premium U.S.-made Bower bearings, we case carburize the steel, giving us a longer life out of those bearings.
Okay, so once you put those in, you got something else in here. What's this spacer for now? Tell me about that.
The spacer's for preset wheel hubs. This goes in between the two races, and basically when the manufacturer sets these, they basically torque it down and it's set automatically. Now what we're doing is actually removing this and installing the bearings traditionally with setting it with a dial indicator.
Okay, so that's something you want to be aware of when you're doing this installation. Now, you don't pack these with grease like we normally do on automotive bearings, do you?
Well, you have to make sure whatever the manufacturer's using, that's what you're going to use. In this case, the vehicle we're using is using oil.
Okay, so that's like a gear oil that we're going to be using.
Correct.
Okay, so we'll go ahead, we'll set these in here. Let it go like that. Always replace it with the new oil seal, and then you're in business.
All right, what we do is we put this nut on now, and I've torqued it to 250 foot-pounds while we turn the drum. That seats the bearings and the seal. Then we'll back this off. And now what's the final torque?
You're going to do a 50 foot-pound torque, and then you're going to back it off half a turn.
Half a turn, okay? So we got our torque wrench set to 50 foot-pounds. Right there. 50 foot-pounds and half a turn. Keep going? A full half turn, huh?
Yep.
How about that?
That's about good right there.
All right. Now, to make sure your preload's good, we take a dial indicator, stick it on the face of the drum, and set it over here to the spindle, and we're going to move it back and forth and see if we got the right tolerance. Okay, we put on the first nut, the big retaining nut. We torqued it to 50 foot-pounds, backed it off half a turn. Then we put in our locking devices, and then the outside nut, which is really what holds everything together. Before you check it with your dial indicator, you want to torque this to 200 foot-pounds.
200 to 300.
200 to 300 foot-pounds, okay? And then you knock over your locking tab. Before you do that, I like to check, make sure we're looking for 1 to 5,000?
1 to 5 thousandths of an inch in play.
Okay, let's give this a tug. See what we have. Right on the money.
Yep.
If you follow the directions, it works pretty good. Again, I'll knock over this lock tab, and we'll finish the job off with a brand new hub cover, gasket, hardware, put in the right amount of hub oil. This is usually the gear oil. This will be all set. We will clear that ABS code, take this truck down the road and check it out. While I'm doing this, we're going to take a quick break. Stick around. We've got a lot more here on Motorhead Garage.
NTN-Bower products are backed with the most stringent quality standards in the industry and offer superior performance with case carburized components. Bower is the leading manufacturer that OEMs prefer. That's because when you open a Bower box, you know you're getting a genuine Bower product made in the USA. Bower differential kits include everything needed to rebuild a differential, including bearings, seals, O-rings, and silicone sealant. To learn more, log on now to ntnamerica.com. Welcome back to Motorhead Garage, coming to you from our studios at Borland Performance Industries.
Hey, welcome back to Motorhead Garage. Well, Sam and I really got a neat project now. What we're working on is the differential from a big rig truck. Now, these things travel millions of miles, and like anything, eventually they'll start to wear out and have to be repaired.
Exactly. When you see this shaft for the power divider, you know it's got two differentials. And these things, when they come from the factory, depending on the manufacturer, have a warranty of either 500,000 or 700,000 miles. But this one's gone a couple million miles, and it's time for bearings.
And the thing you want to check on this is you want to check to see what parts are that you can salvage out of this thing, and maybe you can't. Maybe you pitch the whole thing. In this particular case, though, we're looking at the ring and the pinion, and the ring gear looks pretty good.
Yeah, ring and pinion look good, and you can use these over a lot of the big trucks. But here's the critical thing. We're going to take it apart, put all new bearings in it, clean it up nice, put it back together. You look here at your toe and your heel patterns, and that's where your drive and your coast is. Since we're going to use the ring gear and the pinion gear as a match set over, when we get all done, put it back together and set up all our bearings and stuff, we're going to put our paste on it. We want to get the exact same pattern so you don't get a noise.
Exactly. Let's get started on this.
Okay.
Okay, now we're back in business here. What we've done is Sam and I, we've cleaned up our rear end housing. We've got it all apart, sandblasted it, painted it. So now we're ready to go back. It takes a long time to do this stuff.
You know, you want to replace all the bearings. Now, here's a bearing we took a look at. When you roll it here, it was noisy. This was a noisy rear end. Now, if you look at the cup, it looks almost like it's brand new. A lot of miles on it, so the thing had good lube in it. So that looks fine. That wouldn't be a cause for noise. And if you look at the rollers are all fine. And when you spin them, it looks good. So you might say, well, I'll just wash this out and use it again. Now, we open this bearing up. Let me take it over here. We actually cut the cage. If I can pull this off, there we go. Now, look at that. There's our noise. That inside race is galling. This bearing's junk. That way you don't want to take a chance and then put some high quality.
Now look at the difference here, Sam. You know, you can't always tell by looking at the outer race like this. But when these things start flaking, that metal starts floating around in there, it starts eating this up and eventually destroys your bearing, loosens up everything, and that's when you have problems.
That's right. And you want to make sure you have noise. You want to make sure you use all the bearings and use high quality bearings.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, we've got a real bearing expert with us. We've got Roberto Corieto from NTN-Bower. And Roberto, thank you for coming to the show and bringing some bearings for us because we need them for this.
I think these are going to go to Sam.
Side bearings. I'm going to go take that side gear and put these on.
All right. So, Roberto, I got this all cleaned up. First step we want to do is we're going to flip her over here. We'll put in the pinion.
Okay.
All right. You want to give me a hand here? Sure. Okay. Yes. There we go. All right. Now, a couple of things about this. This shim is something you want to keep, isn't it?
That is correct. This is basically going to set the tooth depth meshing between the ring gear and the pinion gear. So basically by changing this, you're changing the effective meshing depth of the two gears.
Since we're going to use the ring, the original ring and pinion then, we know that depth is correct, and this is the right shim, so we'll put that in here, get that lined up. And this is our pinion set right here. Now the bearing's already been pressed on, all the settings are correct on it now, so all we have to do is drop this in and bolt her down, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now these are a little heavy, and it should just slide right in. It takes a little bit, though. Okay. Ready? Okay, looks like we're in good shape. Okay, folks, you can see what we've done here. We've come a long way. We got it all back together. And Roberto, what did we do? We do a pretty good job on that?
You did a pretty good job. We got a proper clearance, a proper backlash.
That's what we were checking here was our backlash, and if you notice here, we also checked to see what a pattern was with our ring and pinion, and that's in good shape, so I think we're ready to button this up, Sam.
That's right back where it was, so it won't be noisy. By the way, in your NTN-Bower kit, you're going to get your seals, the bearing for the power divider. You're also going to get your RTV silicone sealant, excuse me, which goes between the housing here and then on this diff housing when it goes into the rear end housing, and you'll be in great shape. Then lots of gear oil.
Yeah, you got to get a loan for that. Anyway, Roberto, thank you so much for stopping by. We got a lot more coming here on Motorhead Garage. Stay tuned.